living La Vida low carb. This show is changing lives. We talking about your diet, trying to get you feeling right. Cut up them avocados, fry some eggs, time to explore the longest running health podcast, hosted by Jimmy Moore. Time to give up the crappy garbage, we're getting into ketosis. Every day is a new step to your goal, yeah, you're getting closer. Motivated and focused, don't stop, just go. Time to get inspiration from the Living La Vida Low Carb Show. Hey, the livinglowcarbshow.com.
Hey Jimmy, how's it going?
What's up, my man?
Just trying to get everything done. It's been time to be here. I'm almost dry.
Yes, so guys, before we were on the air, we talked about an hour ago, and he was mowing his grass. He was pouring down sweat and all manly and all, and so here he is. But let me introduce Marty. So right there is Marty Brandon, and he's over on Instagram, marty.brandon.keto.coach. So Marty is a keto coach. Go hire him. He's a keto and carnivore coach. He himself has a wonderful weight loss success story, down 90 pounds, does YouTube videos, and obviously does keto coaching. But you were one of the ones, Marty. Number one, thank you for being here. Appreciate your support. You're one of my biggest fans. Every video I do, you're there. You're always supporting. You buy badges from me. It's just like you've been so supportive of my work. So I wanted to acknowledge you publicly for that. Thank you. I wish I could clone you times a million this world. But I put out the call a few months ago. Hey, you got something interesting you want to talk about? And of course, I knew who you were when you wrote me. And you're like, Jimmy, I've helped so many family members. I've helped so many of my clients with my keto coaching. The healthcare system is broken. People don't know where to go, and they don't have any way to forge a path. And I'm teaching them, here's how you forge your own path. So I was like, that was a great topic. Definitely, let's talk about that here. So thank you for the suggestion.
You bet. It's really good to be here, Jimmy. As you said, I am a fan, and once I met you at that Austin meetup and got one of those Jimmy Moore hugs, I became a real fan because of who you are as a friend and as a people. It's just really changed. It's so much more than keto, and that's what meetups were all about. And it was really a great event we were at, and that really took my fandom to the next level. And I wish you so much success. And thanks for having guys like me that are just new to the space on. What a gift that is, for this to be my first interview with the Jimmy Moore, who's the nicest interviewer that you could get from us first.
I'm going to Sean Hannity you really hard today. All right, so the two questions are coming. No, we're not doing that. That's not my style. So.
No, and it's good.
But yeah, so you have been out there in kind of the keto carnivore world. Tell us your story, because a lot of people may not know who you are. Go ahead and tell me how you lost the 90 pounds and how you kind of came to this place where you're now coaching people on this.
Well, and I need to update my bio. I'm down now about 110. I got a little more off of there.
Yes.
But, you know, I topped out around 300, and I tried everything like everybody else did. I did Weight Watchers. I did Larry North. I don't know if he's national or just local, but he was 6 meals a day. It was skinless, boneless chicken breast with broccoli and rice.
Yeah, they're all predicated on low fat, frequent meals. You have to eat frequently because you're starving eating the low fat meals.
Yeah, supposedly you get your metabolism going, and it keeps going. The problem with that one that really was bad is once you train your body to eat 6 meals a day and you go back to eating Jack in the Box and Taco Bueno 6 meals a day, you can really lose all the gains and gain all the losses in a hurry. And that's how I got to the biggest, was coming off that 6 meals a day and then going back to bad food. That was a bad decision. But, you know, I kept trying, and then some of my clients, and when I say clients, I've been a hairdresser forever. So I'm a hairdresser as well, and then during the day now, I'm a contractor, but I do hairdressing at night.
Can you do
still 2 days a week?
Can you do anything with this?
Well, I can't even do much with this. It doesn't even show up on camera. But I can do the ladies and the hair color pretty good.
Yes.
But, you know, they just won't let me quit. So, but, you know, one of my clients was reading the book by Dr. Duquesne, I don't remember. You remember him.
Yeah.
And that kind of was like, I did that book and I was making his special pancakes and doing all this. And it wasn't a perfect fit. Obviously, it wasn't right, but it was close. And I knew we were on to something here. And then, of course, I got off that too, like you do, because it wasn't that great. But it was on the right track. And I knew I was on the right track. The low carb, cutting out the carbs. And then my very, very dear friend, doctor friend of mine, who's a personal friend, was telling me about LCHF. And he says, I got these guys that I sponsor that are like triathletes, and they're doing this low carb, high fat. They're not carb loading, and they're blowing the doors off everybody, and they look great and they feel great. He said, you should look into that, which friends can tell you, hey, here's a diet you're going to look into. And so I started looking into that, and the next thing you know, I saw Gary Taub's video, that great talk he did, and Andreas Einfeld, and then Dr. Barry's Lies My Doctor Told Me. And I just got on fire, and I went hardcore, started a Facebook group to keep myself accountable, and spent the last 2.5, 3 years really digging into the research, following all the people that are doctors and people that interview doctors and other people, and just dug in. And I've had great success in my health. And then I just fell in love with the process and wanted to share, and got my nutrition coaching certificate and decided this is my future.
So Marty, how old are you now?
I'll be 55 in January.
So 55, and you started this journey how long ago?
It was March 2.5. So March will be 3 years.
Okay.
2.5 years ago.
March of 2019, it sounds like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Wow. And so, I mean, like, this is the beautiful thing. It doesn't matter how old you are, where you are in your life. You can start now and do something and change your life, and you're proof of it. I love watching your Instagram page because you're unabashed. You're like, look, I changed my body. I was 300 pounds and I lost a significant amount of weight. You don't wear a shirt in a lot of your photos and videos. I'm like, I'm not there yet. I'm going to be there, by the way, brother, but I'm not there yet.
I've been watching.
But like, that's impressive. And you've got nice muscle structure. Like, did you incorporate a lot of fitness in with the keto carnivore?
So that's I do. I work outside all day. I dig post holes, and I do, like in the summer, I spend we don't use an auger.
My dad had me do those post holes because he owned restaurants, and there was all the time needing to put up a pole of some sort. And
Sure.
I have blisters all in my hand.
Me too. So yesterday I dug a 3 foot wide by 6 inches deep trench for a sidewalk that's going to get poured, and I'm out there with a shooter for 8 hours just digging with a shooter. And so I do that. I like to rollerblade at the park. And the reason I take my shirt off, I'm not that proud of this saggy skin and stuff, but I'm very vitamin D minded. I want the sunshine.
Yes.
I am over the sunscreen.
Yes.
I get my base in the spring, and I can go out on the boat. I can do whatever I want. I don't burn, and I'm getting that proper synthesis of vitamin D.
Dude, I love that. And I do the same thing, by the way. I have a privacy fence in my backyard where the chickens are, and I've been doing grounding as part of my little protocol of what I'm doing. And I usually stay out there maybe about 10 minutes or so, because I'm very fair skinned. I'm Irish descent, so I'm very easily burned.
Got it.
So I get in the sun and completely naked, so in privacy fence, so nobody can see me. And I get all that vitamin D. Like, you could probably get several thousand IU even in a short stint in the sun. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and that's what we're all about, right? It's all about health. This is not about weight.
Right.
It's about health. And so I've incorporated as much of those other things because, like you said, the reason one of my biggest whys, you talked about whys this morning on your show. I want to be the best grandpa I can be for as long as I can. And that was really my thing. I want to be the grandpa that can still go out and kick the ball with the kids and throw the ball and do all that. And I take them all hunting. They're a big part of my life. I got 9 grandkids at 55.
So you need the energy to keep up with them.
Yeah, that's right.
What are their ages? What's the age range?
16 to 3.
Oh, wow. So So they're all in that age where they're still kids. They're still up.
Oh, yeah.
And wow. Well, you're going to definitely stick around. That 3-year-old, you're going to probably see graduate and get married with the way your health is now. It's wonderful.
That's really the focus, is I want to, like they say, or like we all say, live a good life and fall over dead. You know, not go off into a 20-year death spiral like so many of my family did, you know?
I can envision myself, I'm going to eat in a way and take care of my body in a way where my mental faculties stay here. I will probably podcast the day before I die.
Right. Yeah. Live a full life.
I don't see
follow the bid.
Ever retiring. Why would I? If I still have breath to breathe and there's still lives to change, you keep out there. And I have a feeling you're going to be the same way.
I am. On my days off, I work as hard as I do at work. You know, I was at the deer lease this weekend putting out decoys and driving stakes, and we got go back this weekend to set up feeders and blinds, and we're building a cookhouse. And, you know, that's what I do for fun, is build stuff, because that's what I do for a job too. But, yeah, that's the thing, to be able to stalk and hunt sometime in Colorado and go chase an elk. There's a guy called the Meat Eater, and he's got a great show, but he hunts unlike Texans. I mean, they go and they walk forever. And then if you do take an animal, you've got to walk it back in backpacks. And I was watching this guy and following this guy and loved him. And I was like, I couldn't do that. And that was one of the driving factors too of me going down this path, is I want to do that. I want to go walk 6 miles to get an elk and then carry, you know, 1,000 pounds of meat back out of there 6 miles in 2 or 3 trips. That's a lot of work. I wasn't able to do that in the past. And now I feel like I could do that 5 years from now.
Yeah. And look, it's empowering, especially,
It is.
You know, I'm about to turn 50 in December. And so when you kind of get at this age where people kind of start to shun you and you're just forgotten in society to pay attention to the younger, like, screw that. Like, I think we're moving that needle now.
Right.
Away from that, because, and it gets to the topic we're talking about here of taking control of your health, where kind of the mainstream health system has let us down. I just feel like people are very content with pop a pill, eat the way you want, live the way you want. Here, have another pill, another pill, another pill. Oh, higher dose, higher dose, higher dose. Oh, surgery, 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 die. Like, they're okay with that. I'm not okay with that. I know you're not okay with that.
No, and that is really, you know, you were kind of asking when we first talked about hot buttons, and that is my hot button. And I'm not going down that path, and my mission is to take some people with me down the other path. I mean, that's really what it's about. And, you know, for me, my list is long. Just the things the surgeries I've avoided, the complications in my life that have gone away and made my life so much better. I mean, I have a whole list of things that have happened for me personally, and plus, you know, my friends. And you talk about pills, I would say the biggest thing that is my irritant is I have family members that are type 2 diabetics for 25, 30, 35 years. And over that 35 years, they've never once had any guidance to speak of on what to do to change the situation, but they just get more meds and more meds and more meds. And like, you know, I've been working with my dad, and his story's podcast and a half itself. But, you know, I went by there this weekend and my mom said, your dad's blood sugar finally, because I kept telling him, look, he's got to it's going to take time. We got 70 years of bad choices, and you want me to come in here and tell you it's going to be okay next week. It's not. But if you keep doing this, the liver's going to clear out, all that stored glucose is going to get burned up, and eventually it's going to start dropping. Well, his blood sugar is on a precipitous fall. It fell quite a bit where he dropped one med already, and he's sticking to the metformin, but he's not taking the insulin. And it's starting to get down. She told me it was averaging between 115 and 130. This is a guy who's running around with 300 and 400 blood sugar.
Yeah.
You know?
And
for 35 years, and no one tells him, hey, quit eating sugar, dummy. Now,
Are you tired of playing the mask game? Me too. That's why I wanted to tell you about the Unmask. This is a breathable, completely breathable. It covers, you can't even see that it's breathable, but it's breathable. Whether you're going on a plane, having to go into a store and wearing this thing, playthemaskgame.com is how you can get this mask. They come in all kinds of colors and everything. In fact, right there, you can see right through it what it is, but when you're wearing it, it does not look like it's anything different, but it's breathable, baby. Playthemaskgame.com.
But it's not even a dummy thing. Like, if you don't know, you don't know. And especially these doctors, like, this is my problem with the healthcare system. People go to their doctor, and I did for many years, went to my doctor and just inherently trusted that they knew all the things to do for whatever condition I had, and that they would catch things early so that I wouldn't just suddenly have diabetes, I wouldn't suddenly have heart disease, that they would have parameters. Marty, that I've learned since I've been doing interviews and doing my own education, none of that is even close to true. And not anything against doctors. If I twist my ankle and it's broken and I need them to put it back together, they're wonderful at that. Yes. They don't know a damn thing about how to fix chronic disease. Diabetes, heart disease, PCOS, Alzheimer's, even some cancers. They don't know what to do with it because they don't have a pharmacological cure for it. Although people think when they take a statin drug that that's a cure for a heart attack or heart disease. You can still get heart attack. You can still die of heart disease taking that drug. And so this is kind of where the rubber meets the road in autoimmune, Gina says. Yes, exactly. And this is where the rubber meets the road, where people become frustrated because they know they're doing all the things they're being told to do to get it under control, and yet they're still not seeing results. And it's why people come to podcasts like mine. They see coaches like yours. They just don't trust the system anymore.
And they shouldn't, because symptom management is not treatment.
Yes.
It's symptom management. That's all they're doing. You know, your blood sugar's here. You can take this pill and it'll come down to here. We've managed that symptom. But we're not treating causes. We're not getting to root problems. We're not fixing, like that list you just gave out. I used to think, well, keto will cure that. Keto will cure that. I've kind of changed what I say now. It's not that keto cures everything, and keto being that broad spectrum of low carb, high fat, carnivore, whatever.
Yes.
It's not that keto cures everything. It's that insulin and blood sugar cause everything.
Yes.
And keto is the opposite of that.
And look, I've even called for, just don't call it a name. Don't call it keto. Don't call it carnivore. I have advocated for many years. We need to start calling it the low insulin diet. What's going to keep your insulin under control? And look, one person will have an extraordinary response to one certain food. Let's just say berries, for example, or honey. They'll have an extraordinary response to that food. And then someone else who's a little more insulin sensitive doesn't, and they're able to handle it. Their insulin stays under control. So a low insulin diet, meaning you got to customize it to you and your metabolic health and what you've been through and how old you are and any chronic diseases you currently still deal with. All of those things matter. But in this day and age of, here's just some monolithic way to eat, that doesn't answer the question of how I keep my insulin under control.
That's right. And it is really the driving factor in most of the diseases that you listed, and all the ones that I talk about all the time. Insulin is the driving factor. When you talk about cholesterol issues, people think their LDL is the issue or whatever. If you don't have insulin drilling a hole in your coronary artery, then LDL is not going to go there and start a clotting cascade to create a heart attack. So get back past the LDL, and if they follow what we've seen lately in the science, it's the insulin that's drilling the hole in the road that LDL goes to fix. It's insulin again.
Well, and it's also assuming that LDL is just one number. This is something I talked about it in my book, Cholesterol Clarity, many years ago, where people think LDL is just a number. And it's like, no, when you reduce carbohydrates like you do on keto, low carb, carnivore, and you eat more fat, that does something magical with your lipid numbers, like your triglycerides. They fall like a rock under 100. What's your trigs, by the way? Have you had them run?
No, I have not.
Okay, that's okay. And your HDL goes up, and what that does is it shifts the quality of the LDL. So there's actually, listen guys, good LDL. It's those large fluffy particles, the LDL particles. You can run this test called an NMR lipoprofile test, and it will show you what the quality of your LDL is. And so don't just say, well, I have high LDL, so therefore I'm at a greater risk for heart disease. My first question is, what's your triglyceride to HDL ratio? Because that's
right.
What's your inflammation level, HSCRP otherwise? What's your insulin level? And then let's talk about what that LDL is and look at the breakdown. I think
in the context,
their hat on. I'm sorry, what?
In that context, that LDL is a totally different level of importance.
Yes.
If your HDL is 50 or 100, and your triglycerides are 50 or 30 or 40, then that LDL number in that context is so totally different. And your insulin is 0. You know, I mean, it's just flatlined. That's the key.
Yes. Yeah. People freak out about the LDL cholesterol. And I know you see it in your clients all the time. And after I wrote that book in 2012, came out in 2013. It's almost 10 years old now. And people still freak out. I'm like, did I not explain it clearly enough? Let me say it in even dumber language, because it was so simplified, trying to make it easy to understand. But it's going to be one of those things that, again, doctors put a lot of emphasis on LDL and total cholesterol. So therefore, patients think it's important. It's only important because they talk about it, not because it's important.
And you know, some of the most recent studies, and you probably know the study better than me, the higher the LDL, is a big women's study that came out. If you're especially post 61, they saw that the higher the LDL, the longer all-cause mortality lifespan was.
Well, look, in traditional cultures, and this is one of the things I put in my book, but in traditional cultures, free from heart disease, this is back in the Weston A. Price kind of looking at traditional cultures and how they did things before westernized food came into their culture. In those traditional cultures, no heart disease whatsoever. The average blood cholesterol levels, total cholesterol in women over the age of 60, want to take a guess, Marty?
No.
300.
What?
300 average, meaning some probably had 250, others had 350, but it was the average of 300. And it goes to that hormonal connection to the cholesterol. Like, people hear cholesterol, oh, we got to flush that out of the body because it's harmful. Your hormones under control. You're able to have a lot of great things. That vitamin D we talked about earlier, me standing naked in my backyard, you on the boat and doing all the work with no on. It doesn't happen without cholesterol in your body. That synthesis of that skin getting exposure to the sun, it can't happen unless you have cholesterol.
Right. I mean, you got to have it for every cell. And that makes me wonder why we would want to reduce it just because in the first place. You know, I mean, we need it for so much and so many functions. And I don't understand I do understand. You and I both know it's a very profitable game, this statin game. And there's a lot of people that have a lot at stake there. But even still, the word's getting out. There's some guys coming around, lots of them. And it's getting out to where people are learning. You know, they're learning that I'm not chasing this LDL coming down anymore. That's not the point. It's the triglycerides and HDL. Then the context changes.
Yes, once you kind of see triglycerides are the real bad fat. Everybody talks about LDL being the kind of the bad fat in the blood. No, it's triglycerides. And what drives triglycerides? Primarily carbohydrate.
Exactly. That's like my granddaughter that I sent you her numbers on originally. 11-year-old little girl. She's been around the table, you know, and around the family while we're all talking keto and stuff. And she goes to the doctor and she finds out her mom's getting all the information. And the doctor tells her, you know, her triglycerides are 276, which should cause a heart attack in the doctor. You know, her HDL was 30, which is way too low. 11-year-old little girl. He mentions fatty liver, pre-diabetic, all this stuff. So they get in the car. My granddaughter says, what does all that mean? Well, baby, you're getting overweight, you know, basically. She says, well, then I'm going on keto. Just like that. We didn't do anything. She's the only one in the house for the longest time that was keto, 11-year-old little girl. And 8 weeks later, after she went keto, she went back for her next annual blood work. So this one was early 11. The new one was early 12. The diet started 8 weeks earlier. In 8 weeks, her triglycerides went from 276 to 55.
Yep.
And HDL went from 30 to 44. So you got to imagine, and she's doing great. I just saw her 2 weeks ago at the lake on the last trip. And it's just amazing, you know, her confidence, though, and the way she carries herself. It's changed her whole life, man. But triglycerides and HDL, 180 in 8 weeks.
Real Good Foods is one of the fastest growing frozen food companies in the U.S. Everything they make is nutrient dense, high in protein, low in carbs, and made from real food ingredients. They make food for every occasion: breakfast sandwiches, poppers, enchiladas, entrees, and pizza. So whether you're on a keto diet, trying to cut back on your carbs, or just trying to eat healthier, they make super convenient and tasty options. RealGoodFoods.com and at Real Good Foods on social media.
It's powerful. Like when people tell me they're doing keto or carnivore, and I'm like, so I'll just do this on a whim. Send me your lipid panel if you've got it, if you've run your cholesterol, and I'll look at it, and if it's like 170 something in the triglycerides, I go, so are you being truthful when you say you're eating keto and carnivore, you're not allowing anything in? Well, I still put the sugar in my coffee, and I still have this ice cream after dinner, and da-da-da. I know, because your triglycerides will find you out. If they're under 100, I'm like, rock on. Whatever you're doing, right, rock on. And if it's 50, like your 11-year-old, is that a granddaughter you said?
Granddaughter.
Yeah, his 11-year-old granddaughter got it down to 50-something. Like, that's brilliant. Like, I remember after I lost my initial weight on the Atkins diet, I had never run triglycerides that I would even know what the numbers were. But right after that 1 year, after I lost 180 pounds, I went to see the doctor, and he ran it, and it came back 43. And I knew even then, because I started doing some homework on some of this stuff, I knew then that was really good. And like 72 was the HDL. I had radically changed all. And it happened.
I mean, that's perfect.
I loved your story that it happened in like very quick order.
Yeah. And you know, I want to get mine done. I did get a DEXA scan done, which was really exciting. That was cool. But I want to get mine done, but I've always kind of just put it off because I don't go to the doctor. I haven't had any reason to go to the doctor. I'm not anti-doctor. I'm like you. I'm very pro-doctor, but I just haven't been. I don't do just boring checkups.
Right.
And really, I want to see them, but I kind of figure I know what they are. I figure it's probably 2 to 1 HDL to triglycerides, and it's not going to be that exciting.
Right. Well, I mean, it's good to know, good to keep an eye on, especially
Sure.
our age. We should do that. But I run all my own numbers. There's lots of online places where you can get direct access to LabCorp and Quest. You can do pretty much any test you want. So I'll sometimes run a CBC and all the things, just kind of keep an eye on things. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I haven't been to see a formal doctor. I haven't had a doctor since I fired mine. He's right over there about a mile from my house. I had to fire him, Marty, because he refused. This was like 6 years ago, refused to run fasting insulin. He's like, you're not diabetic. I'm like, I'm trying to prevent that. I'm trying to keep it that way. He's like, well, I can't pay for the insurance. I'm like, I'll pay it. It's $50. It's $50 to run. I'll pay it out of pocket. He still refused. I'm like, you're fired. Like, I can't tolerate a medical professional that won't even do what the customer wants. And I think this is part of taking back your health that we're talking about here today. Be assertive. You're the boss in that relationship with that doctor. They're not the boss. They're merely a consultant in your health, and you've got to treat them as a consultant. Okay, thank you for your advice. Appreciate all your years of wisdom and education and experience. I will take it under advisement, but I'm going to make the final decision.
Right. And yeah, I have looked and looked for a doctor here, and I'm in a big city. I mean, I'm in Dallas, basically. I can throw a rock to Dallas. I'm just east of there. And it's hard. I mean, it's just hard to find someone who's on board with this way of life, who wants to look at my panel in context of the way I eat and understand it, and has read enough or studied enough to even be prepared to understand the context.
And this is why I like a lot of the online, like functional medicine doctors, because they will work with you through Skype. I know people like Dr. Will Cole is out there. There's lots of people that will do that kind of work, but you got to kind of hunt for them. Also, I know dietdoctor.com has a nice resource of doctors near you. Have you checked their resource?
I did, and I didn't come up with much right around here. I mean, probably last year, but maybe 25 to 40 miles, which isn't terrible, but you would think it would be one close. But it was way up in north of Dallas, and the closest one I found was really kind of interesting at all. But they're hard to find. Yeah,
I mean, I'm a 2.5-hour drive to Dr. Westman up in Durham, North Carolina. And so, yeah, you're right. It's hard to find someone who would be on board that could give you good advice.
If I could get to Westman, I would drive the 16 hours to see him. I love him.
The problem with Westman is he's got about a 9 to 12 month waiting list. Yeah. So if we could clone him and some of these other guys, Dr. Adam Nally out west, there's so many people.
Rob Sivas.
That work. What?
Yeah, Rob Sivas is far behind. Gina, who you mentioned a while ago, is trying to get in with him and was like, he's months out, because they're doing it and they're getting a big bunch of people that want to visit with them.
Yes. Yeah, and that's great. But the problem is there's not enough of them. And here's the other thing, Marty. I think a lot of doctors that are not that old guard that just dug in their heels on just take this medication and shut up. I think a lot of the doctors, especially the ones that grew up in the internet age over the past couple of decades, I think they do know about all these things that I talk about on my show and other people talk about, and they are educated. They're just afraid of the system to speak out against it. But like secretly with their patients, they're like, yeah, cut your carbs. Yeah, just eat meat. They can't say that out loud because they would get in trouble with their board, because they get kickbacks from the pharmaceutical companies to prescribe specific drugs for specific ICD codes for specific diseases. And it's such a shame, the game of it all. And the patient's the one that's the pawn in that game.
That's right. And I mean, really, they're kind of handcuffed too. I mean, like you said, I'm a pro doctor, but they have a very limited amount of time they can spend with their patients because of insurance, who's going to pay the bill. They have a standard of care that they have to follow.
Yes.
Because insurance is going to pay the bill. And, they've got 7-8 minutes to get in there, say hi, figure out what's going on, try to make a diagnosis. They look in the computer for which drug you treat for this symptom and standard of care, and bam, you're out of there and he's in the next room. And I get it. That's the thing. But it's like anything else. There's a need, and there's going to get a fulfillment center for that need, just like Amazon fulfilled the need for people to be just able to sit at home and their stuff show up.
Yes.
And, Home Depot brought us much cheaper goods than the old hardware store. But, the old hardware stores and places are starting to make a comeback because people said, I'll pay a little more for some service.
Yes.
I don't like loading my own lumber twice, once in the cart, once in the truck. And as this need comes along, guys like me and you keep promoting this lifestyle. There's going to be more and more need for people to find someone who understands their life context.
Yes, yes. I was recently rewatching Idiocracy, the funny movie about the future that got stupid, and we're kind of living in it these days. But like, it was so funny because there was one scene in the movie where he had to go to the hospital for something. And, what's your symptoms? That, okay, there, okay. What else? There. And they would hit all these buttons, and then out would come this pill that would help with all those symptoms, and not actually getting to the root cause of why those symptoms are happening. It was just symptom care. And I think this taking back control of your health is stop paying attention to symptoms. And another thing, speaking of the high cholesterol, stop paying attention to made up problems. High cholesterol is not a problem. High cholesterol has only been made to be a problem because we got a drug that will lower it. But high cholesterol has never been a disease. There's no ICD code that says you have the disease of high cholesterol.
No.
You have the manifestations that they'll assume, the heart disease, the angina, and all these other things. But high cholesterol in and of itself, not a disease, and yet they treat it as if it is.
And you know how we got here. I mean, it looks like it at first blush when you look at what happens in a heart attack and what the LDL does to cause the problem. But that was bad science since the 50s, and we know that. And like Dr. Berry said, he goes, if you got a guy trying to lower your LDL, he hasn't read anything in 20 years.
At least
like
20.
He has not cracked a book in 20 years if he's trying to treat your cholesterol that way.
At least 20, because the LDL hypothesis was already on the outskirts circa mid-90s. And
right.
About that time was when triglycerides were first starting to be paid attention to, and the whole triglyceride to HDL ratio came in the early 2000s. A lot of the research, and I was around 2004 was when I started the Atkins diet. So I was around as that research was developing. We've known about triglyceride to HDL ratio for a decade and a half, and then how that relates to your particle size. We were talking about LDL. You got a nice low triglyceride to HDL ratio. You pretty much have very little small dense LDL. And so
right. I mean,
that is a proxy if you can't afford the more expensive particle size test. If you've got a HDL to triglyceride ratio where you literally take your HDL and divide it by your triglycerides, if it's under 3, you're great. If it's under 1, it's optimal. It's wonderful. And I feel like the doctors, they know this. They have to know this. They have to know all of this research is out there, but they're so busy in their practice, they're not able to keep up. They go to conferences, and at the conferences, guess who pays for the CME credits? It's the pharmaceutical companies. I want cattle ranchers to get in there and have their have a carnivore kind of presentation of, well, when you eat mostly meat-based diet, here's what the studies are showing. I look forward to Sean Baker's study when it comes out. Like, I would not be surprised if Sean says, all right, let's take this to the medical field.
Yeah, because if you eat the way we eat, you're going to have some LDL moving fat around to be used in your body.
Yes.
Because we're consuming it, we're burning it, it's got to be shipped around just like blood sugar is. So we've dropped that. Our LDL is going to go up because that's what's moving around to fuel everything. And it's like, it's not that complicated when you really think about how our context is different. There's going to be a high LDL. I mean, I know I've seen doctors literally throw a party because their LDL reached 300. It was a doctor. She was so excited on a live I was watching. I was like, that's a different thing. That's a different context that they're not used to seeing. But I'm like you. I think there's more knowledge out there than they've got to know. They've got to know.
Unless your head is so far in the ground, you have to know if you're paying any kind of attention at all. And I would think, especially with what's happened over the past couple of years and seeing the people who've dealt with the comorbidities, how did they get to that point where they're dealing with obesity and heart disease and all the rest, all the diseases, I like to say, all the diseases of insulin resistance, because almost all of them are, including obesity, tied to insulin resistance. And you get that under control, then you can control a lot of the comorbidities. I would think with all that's happened, and they're like, okay, how do I get my patients from being there? Because obviously these little Band-Aid pills and surgeries and things aren't working. What can we do? So I'm hoping if there's a bright silver lining at the end of all the hell that has been the last 2 years, maybe that will reverberate throughout the medical field and have them wake up to, oh my gosh, we need to be more efficient and be better instead of in idiocracy hitting a button. Okay, here's your pill.
Yeah, this has been really a tough couple years, and I think I saw a guy on who's a news guy that I would not generally watch, and there was a post of him saying, why is nobody talking about this? And he just came out and said, look, we've got a culture of people that are all this comorbidity and nobody's talking about it. And he's somebody who I would have thought would have been maybe on the opposite side of me. And he's just throwing up his hands and saying, this is insanity, y'all.
Yes.
We're all overweight. We're all sick. And then this stuff comes along and it's just knocking them off like flies because they're half dead already. They're just, You know,
Yeah.
they're just alive enough to keep functioning. And that's the American way right now. We're all, you know, you look at old pictures versus walk into any mall or anywhere and look at the difference. And we're all overweight, like drastically. And all the comorbidities that come with that, everything. And it just makes life so hard to live. I know how much younger I feel today versus when I had that list of issues that this fixed for me, which I can share those anytime later. But, you know, it's just so different to feel. I tell people, they're like, I feel good. I said, you think so? Wait till you take it to Superman level. I always joke and say, if I had a cape, I could fly. You don't know what feeling good feels like. That's normal, but it isn't good.
Keto Chow is a customizable shake mix that is also perfect for cooking and baking, giving you simple, nutritionally perfect meal options. Keto Chow. Make keto easy. Discover your favorite flavor at jimmylovesketochow.com.
Yeah, and it is amazing what you put up with and tolerate as feeling good, and then you actually start feeling good, and you're like, whoa, why did I ever put up with that? Because here's a
Didn't know.
cover up a symptom, and everybody else is doing it. Why are you bucking the system? Why are you pushing back against your doctor? That doctor knows everything, and da-da-da. And it's like when your eyes get opened and you realize, okay, there is a better way. This is what the beauty of what you teach with your clients, what I try to teach on my podcast all the time is there is a better way. And it's not just the diet, but the diet is that foundation. You get that diet down, then you can start talking about all this extra stuff that maybe you can add to it. But that diet has to be dialed in for you to lay that groundwork. Yeah,
and it's a next level good that you can feel. People just don't understand, like, all the things. And I was worse than a lot of people because I didn't take the meds. I didn't go to the doctor. I just had all that crap. And I kept carrying it around, all these things, because I didn't take treatment, you know. I had IBS for 40 years. And I mean in a bad way, you know, where you go a week and then you miss a day of work because you can't leave the house.
Yeah.
On catch-up day. I mean, bad IBS. And, you know, just sick. And I didn't do the things that they recommend, which I now know probably would not have helped as much as I think, or they say. I've seen a lot of people say they lived on Metamucil and all that other stuff, and it did not help because turns out a little red meat and some butter worked better than anything else. I tried the Metamucil thing, and it didn't help my situation, but red meat and butter and bacon has seemed to be a real fix for that. And that's just one of the things that I have really seen change in my life, you know.
Red meat, butter, and bacon. I think I could live on those things, Marty.
I have been. I had some eggs and bacon and sausage a while ago.
Yes, when you called me an hour before the interview, I had just finished up my beef stroganoff. I've been on a stroganoff kick lately with my food. Like, okay, I've got Italian sausage. Let's make stroganoff. I've got pork sausage. Let's make stroganoff. I've got grass-fed beef. Well, let's make stroganoff. Like, just mix in a little bit of cream cheese and spices and salt and yeah, here, there, everywhere. It's good.
Yep, it is. Well, yeah, I've been eating lately more and more of what I've harvested. I'm trying to get my freezer cleaned out because it's time to harvest again, and I don't want to be wasteful. I want to eat that. So, you know, I had wild hog this morning that I harvested and made my own breakfast sausage with, and that's, you know, that's a nice way to get to eat when you live this way. Man, it's pretty awesome to be a hunter. I'm setting decoys last weekend and getting everything ready to try to get some ducks in the freezer.
Yeah, I mean, I love people like yourself who talk the talk, walk the walk. There you are. And look, I've got backyard chickens. I get my eggs from back there, and I love them. They're fun, by the way, and I know you do raise them. They're hilariously fun. I recently had on JC Woods. She's a registered dietitian who does carnivore, and she has a big 9-acre farm where she's got all kinds of animals that she raises for food. So, yeah, it's amazing. get closer to your food, guys, and it will make you appreciate why you're taking back your health the way that you are. Yeah, I feel so passionate about that, especially with all that's happening in the world. We don't know what's happening with the meat supply, and are we going to have meat availability? And so try to do it yourself and raise your own and breed them. And that way you never run out of food.
Right. Yeah. And I'm kind of old, an old soul. I love to make jerky, and I love to can stuff and put it up. And I mean, you know, I'm not a prepper, but I'm prepared, because I can make some jerky and I can make some food. If you get some extra, you know how to store it like the old guys did. You have it for later.
Hey, look, the preppers look pretty intelligent right now. So.
Yeah, especially when the grocery stores didn't have any food, and you just go to the pantry and go, well, here's some stew I made, and it's in a mason jar. It's going to be good for another year, but yeah, it's a good deal.
It's amazing. And then, of course, fermentation will help it stay a little longer as well. So, and there's good gut health benefits to that. Like, we could go down the rabbit hole of all the ways that you can take back your health. In the closing moments here, Marty, encourage people. Maybe they feel discouraged. Maybe they've dealt with some health issues for a little while. They don't really know where to go. Give them some encouragement about how they can take back control of their health.
Well, I think you have to trust. You have to trust some people that have lived it. You can follow guys like Jimmy, and there's so much that I picked up in my early days on YouTube from doctors and stuff that gave me confidence to say, this really sounds right. I really think they're onto something, and to try it. And I will tell you that just about everything that ails us these days, from Alzheimer's at the end to bone and joint pain in the early stages of high school and stuff when it starts hitting, and everything in between, the carpal tunnel surgery I didn't have to get because it was cured. You know, all those things, my mood, my brain, and the functioning, all those things got better because I took the anti-inflammatory, the anti-insulin. What would you call the diet again? What'd you call it?
Yeah, the low insulin diet.
The low insulin diet is the key to all of it. And if you really, you know, get into some of the information and arm yourself so that your brain says, Mom, you're not right. Jimmy's right. It's a low insulin diet that I need. And arm yourself. You can reach the kind of goals that you want to reach. You can feel 10 years younger, 15 years younger. It's a real amazing thing, the things that have gone away from my body and the things that have come back to my body that are youthful. And I tell you, if I had 30 seconds to tell you, I'd say, lower your insulin, everything will get better.
Love it, love it. Tell us about your YouTube channel. What do you do there?
Well, I have about 10 videos up. I'm fixing to start kind of shifting that more towards some cooking.
You're fixing to, I can tell you're a Southern boy when you say you're fixing.
Yeah, Jimmy, I thought she was going to be nice. Okay, I am.
I can make fun of Southern because I'm Southern too.
That's right.
Just on purpose.
I can't believe I said fixing on a podcast. But I am about to shift over to more. I am about to switch gears to more cooking and stuff, because I feel like my thing to coaching has been, I put everything on my YouTube channel. You can go to my YouTube channel, start at the bottom, watch it all the way up. You'll know everything you need to know to get your health back. Most people won't do that. Most people have to pay a trainer to lift weights. Yes, it's Marty Brandon, keto coach on YouTube. You can find me. Most people have to pay a trainer to lift weights. You could deliver them a home gym and they won't do it. And that's why I chose to be a payable coach as well. Some people need that accountability. If they don't pay a gym membership, they don't go. But my YouTube channel has everything you need for free, because I want to give first. I want to give it out there. Try it. Do it yourself without my help. You know, hit me up on Instagram. I'll help you anyway. But that's what my YouTube channel was about, was to get the information out. How do you do a cheat meal if you're going to cheat? Should I cheat? I don't know. How often should I wait? I don't know. It's all there. What to eat, what not to eat, how often, everything's there, and it's all free. And that's what I wanted. And so I'm about to start back with some cooking videos.
I'm going to give you a complex about your Southern colloquialism. You say fixing all you want, brother. That's allowed.
Okay. It's all my life.
Hey, if you don't say fixing, you say fitting to.
I thought
I'm fitting to go.
I've said that.
Guys, go check him out. Marty Brandon over on Instagram. He's marty.brandon.keto.coach. MartyBrandon, and then keto, and then coach is spelled with a K, by the way, so don't get caught. Although if you put in marty.brandon.keto, I'm sure it just pops up. So I just put in M now because I follow your stuff all the time, and it comes right up Marty. So I was like, okay, there he is. But yes, do you have any website or anything like that, or how do people contact you for coaching?
You know, I was in Facebook really hard, and then when I found Instagram, I found the community to be a lot better.
Yes.
When your niche is what our niche is. I don't know about the other niches, but Instagram really has taken my life away from me on the other platforms because it's so good. I mean, I've made friends that are like serious friends on Instagram.
Yes.
And so that's my main place. That's my main place. I have a Facebook called Keto Clan, KETOKLAN, and I'm on it. I'm on Facebook, but it's usually just my Instagram posts go over to Facebook, and then the YouTube channel, which is gonna start back up.
Well, you do a good job. You post little pictures like that of your meals so people can see.
That's what I just ate.
That's what you just ate. So yeah. So guys, go follow him. And Marty, thank you, brother. It was so fun to hear. I knew you were going to be fun because, number one, you're a big fan of mine, and I'm a big fan of yours, so that always makes a good dynamic. But you really brought it, and thank you for all that you're doing.
Thank you, man. I love you, and you know it. You're my hero. I'll see you soon.
Get inspiration from the Living La Vida Low Carb Show. Hey, the livinglowcarbshow.com. Woo!
Have you experienced the dreaded keto flu? Did you know that most of these symptoms are actually due to your body dumping excess electrolytes? This is where Element comes in. Element is a tasty electrolyte drink mix with everything you need and nothing you don't. That means lots of salt with no sugar. Element is formulated to help anyone with their electrolyte needs and is perfectly suited to folks following a keto, low carb, or paleo diet. Element contains a science-backed electrolyte ratio, 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium, with none of the junk, no sugar, no coloring, no artificial ingredients, no gluten, no fillers, no BS. Everyone needs electrolytes, especially those on low-carb diets, or if you practice intermittent or extended fasting, if you're physically active, or sweat a lot. Add Element today and see how much better you feel and perform. Use the URL drinklmnt.com/Jimmy.